Hello, welcome. Welcome to today's discussion message. It's going to be a little bit different as I felt called to go a little bit deeper today. For like the last, I would say, month or so, there has been like this attraction to this one particular issue that's obviously at hand right now. And so I feel like tonight Spirit is calling me to have discussion about it, possibly offer encouragement, some insight. And so what it is what I've been seeing a lot of, and I don't know why this has been coming across my page, but it is about children that go no contact, and the difficulty of dealing with these types of situations, especially as parents, as family, as siblings, you know, for those that have people that they are attached to, like it's difficult. It's difficult and it's not a light thing. And so I wanted to have discussion about that today. Like I said, I have been seeing many videos, responses to videos, and many different discussions happening around this occurrence that's happening. Children just going no contact. And it's difficult to watch because not everybody takes it the same. Some of us take it personal. Some of us are able to, deal with it as just a part of, life at that moment in time, like just something that is being handled right at that point in life. Some may look at it as just like a lesson that's being learned, but some may take it really hard. I completely understand some get a little bit offended by it. I've heard really a lot of different responses to children going no contact. And what that means, for those of you that may not know what that means, it is pretty self explanatory, but this is when the child decides that they, for whatever reason, they feel they need a little more independence. And they may, in fact, go into a mindset of not feeling like they want to be bothered, or they're no longer need the familial support, or it may even be around frustration, for whatever reason. There's this thing that's happening, that's trending, about children that go no contact. And so first I'd like to just say that for the parents that tend to want to beat themselves up, don't do that. Because first of all, there is no perfect parenting. Nobody has been given a manual to tell you what to do, when to do it, how to avoid this, how to avoid that. As someone who has done every possible thing that I knew how to protect my children and to keep them safe and to give them, the tools that I believe that they needed to protect themselves and to be successful, there is a point where we get to release them out into the world to experience that. Unfortunately, we don't really get to navigate that for them. They have to really navigate that for themselves. And so we don't have a manual. There's no perfect way to parent. It's almost like you really pour out the best that you have. And that's something that we come to appreciate too when we become parents. It's hard to understand what being a parent is. A lot of our kids won't even understand that until they become parents. There's a lot of things that I did, a lot of really unfair mindsets that I entertained before I had kids. That's the key word. Before I had kids, right? And I even know like lots of people that love to give, advice and ain't got not a child in sight. Like, you don't even know. Until you have kids, you don't know the struggle. But there's no manual that we're given on how to perfectly, there's no such thing as perfect parenting. And so I just want to really extend my heart, and as a parent, like, just to show grace on yourself. Don't you uh, blame yourself for 1 second, because I believe that we all do the very best that we can with what we have, with what we know at the time. Sometimes we do find that we could have did things a little different. If I could go back, there's lots of things that I would do different. But it is what it is. There's no going back, and we have to really um, do the best that we can with what we have. And my heart goes out to the single parents. Like, you don't know what that's like either. Unless you have had to really take care of your children on your own without the support of others, you really don't know what that feels like. It's difficult having a two-parent household, and it's difficult having a one-parent household, even more so. And so, unfortunately, we're not given a manual on how to do, or what, we're not given many times the foresight to see what will come along and what we need to do now to, ensure certain things go a certain way. Many of us don't have that luxury or that kind of tool to navigate us. And so I just want to encourage the parents, like, kudos like, if you were able to really maintain the integrity of your parenting all the way, making sure that your children got through school, or whatever it was that you felt was important for them to experience in preparation for their adult life. Like, I applaud you. Because I know how difficult that is. And so, don't you dare beat yourself up. Don't do it. And you have grace on yourself, and you celebrate the job that you have done. And so that's the first thing that I'd like to say. And it is tough. Is the next thing I want to say is that it's really difficult. And parenting by itself offers a lot of challenges that help us to continue to grow. And I found that I didn't even really have to grow up until I had kids. Like, it was playtime until I had kids, and that's when the real world hit. And so there's a lot of challenges that come along with parenting, and you find that you can no longer take you can no longer take life for granted, because you're no longer just worried about yourself. Now you have other people dependent upon you. And so there's a level of maturity that's forced on you when you start having children many times. And when we're speaking about this situation where we reached that point to where we've brought them to where they can actually experience a little bit of independence, for those that do decide to kind of venture out and do their thing, it's difficult. It's difficult releasing. It's difficult not being the helicopter parent, after your children have grown, and still trying to navigate the experience with them when they may not, necessarily feel like that's necessary. And so it offers a lot. And I'm speaking from experience. Let me say that. I have 5 children. I have 6 children that I've raised, that I've helped raise. 3 I gave birth to, and 3 I call mine because I helped raise them. But the hardest part is where you have to release. It's not easy. It's difficult. It's painful. And I think it offers a lot of room and space for introspection, and to really go within and search ourselves when that moment comes. And along with that comes more growth, right? The fact that we had kids pushed us into growth. And now we get to the point where we have to release them. And it's understanding that, yeah, you gave birth, but honestly, that child belongs to God. That child belongs to the creator, to source, to the universe, however you see your source. But it actually is a privilege that we've been given the ability to entertain such a beautiful thought of being able to give birth to something and bring it into the world and nurture it and raise it up and teach it and mold it and sculpt and pour into it the values. There's such a beautiful experience that happens in that process. And it becomes painful when the you have to release the baby, right? Because there comes a point where they're no longer babies. They'll always be your baby, but no longer babies. And so it offers more. There's almost like I found through my experience of parenting, like once you reach a point where you feel like you have got the ropes, right? I happen to have 3 kids that I raised from birth to adulthood. And I had the privilege of being able to be a part of 3 more children. Even though I didn't give birth to them, I consider them mine as well. And it's almost like once you feel like you've mastered one part, and it's like, okay, I got it down, there's something else that comes up. It's almost like this continuous evolving and keeping you on your toes, right? And when we talk about the experience of birth to adulthood, it's almost like, okay, so you get them on a night schedule as newborns. And then next thing you know, okay, there's something else that comes up. You now have to start, teaching them how to feed themselves and teaching them how to walk. Now you got to chase them to make sure they're not getting into anything. And then you got to start teaching them, right from wrong and common sense and safety. And then you have to teach them about socializing, how they are to relate. And, it's just one thing after another. As soon as you feel like you've mastered one level, you don't even get a chance to breathe. It's right to the next level. It's kind of like that, all the way to adulthood. And so parenting in itself provides this very unique life experience that keeps us growing. And it keeps us, really introspected and reflecting in many ways. And that does not stop just because they've reached that level of adulthood. It becomes even more so that you're challenged to develop these skills to continue to parent, but from a different perspective. And so just to navigate this tough experience is like, it's difficult. It's difficult. And nobody said it was going to be easy. And as someone who at one point, I think I thought I wanted 10 kids, like somebody slapped me. What was I thinking? I guess I wasn't, because I wanted 10 kids. And I was somebody that wanted all girls. What was I thinking? I don't know. But in my mind, that's what I wanted. That's what I believed I wanted before I actually started having children. But I also entertained the thought of twins and triplets. And I feel very fortunate because I was given, a set of twins. And so I feel like that was kind of like my answered prayer before I really understood what I was asking for. But parenting is difficult. It's difficult. And so the third thing I want to say is through this process, right? We don't have a manual. We already know that. There's no set way. No one can tell you, the right or the wrong way to parent because there is no manual. We do the best that we can with what we have. And we just really have to trust. We have to trust that we have given all that was needed and they have received all that we've given in order to navigate, their experience, just like we did. And I always talk a lot about, talking and trying to help my children avoid pitfalls and avoid mistakes that I've made. I've spent a lot of my child rearing years talking and trying to equip and prepare my children. But at the end of the day, we have to release it and we have to trust that we have given all that was necessary. And the beautiful thing about that is, even though they may not demonstrate what it is that our hopes, and our high hopes for them, they may not demonstrate that right away, but it's always there. Everything that we put into them, the love, the support, the discipline, all of the talks about, being able to operate efficiently out in the world as an adult, they may not really understand it. Sometimes some of us, and I'm going to say us because I was one that needed to experience to understand. Like, I could have been told, 5, 6, 7, 8 times not to touch the iron. And I'm the type that had to learn by experience. It's like, I'm going to go touch the iron just to see if it's as hot as they said it was. There's just something, I have to experience it to believe it. But there are some that can hear a good message or a good, story of someone else's experience. And they'll say, oh, okay, well, I'll make sure I don't do that. Let me remember that. And so, but some of us have to learn through experience, and that's okay too, as long as we learn. Sometimes we have to get out there and experience it for what we've been told to actually sink in, because we all have different learning styles, and that is not only applicable in the classroom, but that's also applicable in life. And so, yeah, they hear us and it's there. They may have tucked it away because it's not really applicable yet, but there has to be some experience that they can match with the advice or the instruction or the warning that they've been given. It has to actually become real life for some people, because we all have different learning styles and techniques. Some of us can learn by just listening. Some of us need to see. Some of us need to, experience. We need that very tactile experience, that hands-on. We need to be able to go through the motion for it to actually sink in. Some of us need a plethora of all those things all together. Some of us need repetition to learn, and so we all have different learning styles. And none of our kids, even though I had twins and they were born together and they are very close, they're still different. Very much so. They're different. And so we have to trust. And I know it's hard. I know it's difficult too. And, this is something that hits home for me, because I've been through several situations where I have sat up late at night worrying, wondering, and just the thought of what could be taking place. I think that's the most difficult part. It's the not knowing. It's difficult. But we have to trust that what we have put in them is enough to sustain them, that it's going to be enough, and that it will, be available when they need it at the right time. There has been many times where I have found myself in difficult situations, and because I was told, right, something kicked in right when I needed it. And, I was able to escape, difficult situations. There's been some situations where I had to sit in it for a while, to understand, oh, okay, yeah, that wasn't what I wanted, you know. And so, but what I'm saying is we have to trust our parenting, and we have to trust that what we put in them, you know, is going to be everything and more that they need when they need it, and when they're ready to really understand it and utilize it. And just because it doesn't feel like they're listening now, just because it doesn't seem like anything that you've placed in them is relevant, that doesn't mean that it's not. Okay. Sometimes the light bulb don't come on till about 30, right? It's said that the adolescent mind, the brain is developing, it's still developing around 24, 25. And so a lot of times we get ahead of ourselves because we, you know, the brain hasn't even developed fully. And we've been given a level of independence and freedom really before we're ready, honestly. And so not to say that we need to hold them back more, but it almost feels like there's the need to understand how much we are needed as parents, even as we release them out into the world. They don't know it, but we understand that. And so that's why the fourth thing that I wanted to say to encourage, you know, anyone that may have experienced or may be experiencing this is just to stay open and stay um, vulnerable, even though it hurts. It hurts. It's very painful being, you know, rejected when you're giving love. Is very painful, but understand many times it's not personal. They may think it is, but it's not. It's really a process of adolescence that they're experiencing. And for some, it may be necessary. But don't take it personal. Stay open, stay vulnerable, because they always return. They do. I don't care if it takes years. I don't care if they stay gone till they start, you know, having a family and expanding that family. They will have a desire to return. Okay. Even if it's nothing more than to get some kind of closure, right? But stay open, stay loving, stay vulnerable, and stay believing that you have given all that's needed. And when I say that I've had, you know, a lot of experience with this, I've had some long sleepless nights and worrying and praying and, you know, crying. And it's been difficult. But what I learned is it doesn't help to push the situation. It doesn't help to force your way into places where, you know, it may not be welcomed at the time. And so, yeah, they, you know, and I've had, you know, different experiences. You know, I have children. My children are grown, you know, they've been out on their own. I have an older son who, you know, he's been out on his own a couple of times. And the first time he stayed about maybe 20, 30 minutes from us, and I hardly ever saw him. But I wasn't worried because I knew he knew where home was. And I knew that, you know, if he ever needed anything, he knew where I was. He knew where home was, and he knew that he could come and get it if it ever came to that point. And so I guess that would be kind of like a different situation because it really wasn't a no contact, but there was little contact because he was establishing his independence. And in doing that, he didn't really feel like he needed a lot of support. And I didn't take it personal. As a matter of fact, I felt pretty proud, you know, that I had given him enough tools to be able to feel like he doesn't need to be running back and forth, home every other day, getting stuff or feeling like he needs, something, some instruction or some guidance. Like he was doing it. And so I felt very proud of the fact that I had done a good job. And so that's one way to look at it too. If you have a child that feels like, they don't need the extra support in a way, that is really, it's a compliment. You can look at it that way too. It's a compliment. The fact that they're able to manage and navigate life's experiences without running back and forth home every other day. Now, sometimes, there's a lot more that's involved. Sometimes there's some pain that's being avoided. Sometimes there's some frustration. There's a lot of reasons why kids go no contact, but even the fact that they're able to do that is really a compliment to, I believe, a good job that you've done, that they're able to maintain, independently. That's actually a compliment. And so, I've had experiences like that. And then I've also had experiences where it was like, I haven't heard, from my loved ones for like a long period of time. But whatever that was, it was a need to claim their independence. Maybe there was some healing that was needed, and they needed to separate themselves to go and get it, to find it, this level of independence and sovereignty. I didn't see, it hurt. Yeah, it did. But when it's all said and done, we have to allow them space to do what they need to do. And one thing I've learned too is that we all, including our children, we all have our own paths. Again, as I was saying, we did have this beautiful opportunity to experience bringing this life into the world and nurturing it and raising it up and giving it our values and shaping it and molding it. But then we have to release it because it was on borrowed time. It's really not ours. We were just given the privilege of bringing it into the world. Not, I don't mean to refer to them as it, but bringing them into the world and kind of shaping and molding them the best that we can. But then we come to the point where we release. As hard as that is, we release and we allow them to now embrace their identity and embrace their, experience, their path. They have a path, and it may not be our path. And so that's part of the challenge and the lesson around it. And it's been, very difficult watching, these different responses. Because some parents are really hurt and distraught about it. I've heard, there's one lady who hadn't heard from her child for a while, and she just popped up. Her child moved out of town. She just popped up all of a sudden. And her child was like, if you ever pop up here again, I will call the police on you. Right. And I'm like, oh my God, like I would just flip a biscuit. But at the same time, I would respect it. I would respect it because what they're saying is, listen, I'm grown now and I need my independence. I need my space. And that's something that I've learned too, is to give space, to trust the parenting, trust the job that I've done. Does it always feel easy? No, especially when you see that your child is not necessarily making the best decisions or it's not necessarily unfolding in the best way. Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard. But there comes a point where we have to trust in our parenting and trust the process too. Because just like we had to learn, and this is the thing that humbles me, I think back to, one of the things that happens when I get in that position where I feel like, oh man, I'm just going through, with my kids. It takes me immediately back to me being in that headspace of thinking, possibly that I know it all, that I don't need any instruction, and that I know what I'm doing. And, many times even that I don't care, like, but it takes me back to those times, and then the beautiful thing about it is that I had, support that cared enough to tell me right from wrong and to stay on me, but also gave me the space to make the mistakes and to make, the choices that will give me the wisdom that was needed. And it was hard. I think I almost pretty much gave my grandmother a heart attack, like worrying about me because I was just that far, you know, gone. And, just wanting to do what I wanted to do, wanting my independence, wanting to be sovereign, but really wasn't a lick ready. Still wasn't ready because I was operating in a childish way, but I wanted to be an adult. But, there was just a little bit of process that needed to happen. Like I said, once I had my kids, that woke me up and I could no longer operate in that selfish capacity because I had someone else to care for. But I had to walk the path that was set out for me. And it's true with our children too. We have all been given a path. And this is kind of what helps me sometimes when I'm tempted to become a worry ward or to become the helicopter parent or to just flat out go 5150 on somebody because they're not acting right. I have to remember that we all have been given our own path. And just like I had to learn through experience, through many a mistakes, many a heartaches, many of, difficult decisions that I actually had to process. And though people were around, they couldn't help me, because I had put myself in positions that I had to actually deal with, right? That's part of the maturing. So we have to really understand too, not to go running to save our kids. There's a process of giving them the space, not only when they want it, but even sometimes when they don't want it. It's a part of allowing them. And so there's no guidebook on what that is. We really need to be led by our inner guidance, by compassion, by love. Sometimes it's tough love, but it's all about trusting what it is that we have given through the process of parenting our babies that are no longer babies. And if I had a bottle for all of the tears that I cried, I'd have a huge bottle. But my children that I helped to raise before I actually had my own kids, I think in many ways prepared me to be better with parenting my children when they came along. Definitely some things that I would change. Definitely, I would be more graceful in certain areas with my older children. And with my younger children, I would actually do things different too. So I do, I don't feel like I was the perfect parent, far from it. Like I could probably tear myself apart with the parenting job, but I've learned from it. It's been a learning experience, and I think that's part of this experience of becoming this very tender uh, energy for the grandbabies, right? It's all cultivated during parenting. And by the time we get to the point where we're having grandkids, we've mastered parenting. That's why we've learned how to be so sweet, so forgiving, so listening, so open. And so there's just a lot that I've learned, and I'm grateful for it. And not that it's been easy, it hasn't. And so I just wanted to, encourage if I have anyone that watches my page that's been going through that, hang in there, trust the process. And even if it don't ever turn out the way you intended, I want you to be graceful with yourself and understand that you did an amazing job. We do the best we can with what we have. That's all we can do. And then we have to trust that we've given enough for them to actually navigate their path, just like we did. And so, since my children have become grown, like I really am very intentional on releasing myself from the role of parenting. Not that I see my kids as friends, I still maintain that energy of, this guide of sorts when they need it, or when I feel like it's needed, and then I just back up. But I have come to, now that they're grown, like I've released myself from it. Now it's time for me to get back on with my life, because there was a lot of things that I put on hold when my children were growing up. I put a lot of things on hold. And when I had finally succeeded in getting them to a place where they're able to operate on their own, it really is, I feel like it's a compliment. Will they always get it right and stay out there and navigate life flawlessly, where they'll never make any mistakes? Did they ever, consider me? Not always. And they may not always, but I trust. And you should too. Trust that what you've given is enough. And when it's needed, like what you've poured into them will be useful for them. And I just want to encourage, now is the time. If you have, a child that's gone no contact and they're out living their life, like this is a perfect time for you to live yours too. And, in light of me being at a place where I've raised my kids and they're grown, like now it's time for me to reconvene and enjoy life where I left off before I had kids. Now it's time for me to recultivate and connect to the things that I love to do, because I'm no longer having to care for people. My people care for themselves. And so, and I'm not saying that in light of saying don't worry about your kid because they're missing and no, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that you should celebrate the fact that you are able to release a child out to try to navigate, that they even feel confident enough, to navigate life on their own at this point. And in light of saying that, I'm asking, even right now, in the heart of prayer, in the heart of calling on, our angels and our spirit guides, all that is available to protect those that have been missing and hasn't made any contact with their parents, that you would ease the hearts of the parents and allow them a peace that passes all understanding. And even protect those that are out and experiencing life and set out on their path and doing what they feel is best right now, the children, that you would cover, that you would protect them, that you would set guards, angels around them to keep them, even from themselves, even from themselves. And I'm asking for that support here for anyone that may be going through this right now. It's real. It's real. And I know it. I've been through it. I've lived through it. And it's not easy. So I stand with you. And I ask that this video, comes across whoever path needs it. Whoever needs to hear this for encouragement, or maybe even just for, some support, in knowing that you did an amazing job. Don't you beat yourself up, not for 1 second. Okay. And so I just wanted to start off with that. I am also going to take a moment to look into what Spirit might have to say tonight. what Spirit has to say tonight. This may be something that someone needs to hear. And I know you probably wasn't expecting this message, but someone may need the encouragement. All right. So give us a little information, Spirit, on what's happening right now. And so I pulled the judgment, the death, and the Nine of Cups. I pulled the moon and the Ten of Cups as well. And so there's something that's changing in this moment. There's something that's changing drastically. The experience is changing something majorly, like on a deep level. And I feel like there is, first of all, the recognition of not taking what it is that we have at our disposal at any moment for granted. There's a deepening that's happening right now. Um, there's an increasing awareness of the reason, like to be appreciative and thankful and grateful and to acknowledge and appreciate what it is that we have. The moon and the Ten of Cups is almost like the experience is lifting the awareness. It's lifting a deeper weight of connection because I got the backside of this moon, and this talks about something being revealed on a deep, deep level, something that could not have become known any other way. There's some secret that's being revealed through the experience right now, leading to the Ten of Cups. This closeness with family, this closeness and the understanding of the energy of support, the energy of family. I feel like there's something that's arising from the energy that we're dealing with right now. Wherever you see yourself, if you're dealing with something like this, there's a flip side to what's happening. And I'm not trying to pretend like I know, anyone's situation or I'm trying to predict, like, this is not what this is about. It's really reading into the energy of what's happening and possibly, some ways that it can be interpreted and how we can draw strength and encouragement in this moment. The Ten of Cups is actually a very beautiful card. It is talking about strong familial bonds and the appreciation of that. Again, not taking it for granted. The Nine of Cups is the same. And that the Nine of Cups could point to just looking around at everything, looking around at the current situation, the current circumstances, and all that we have to be thankful for in this moment. Something's changing, something's being uncovered with the death and the judgment. There's something that is possibly even being learned in this situation that could not be learned any other way. And as I look at the energy existing right now in the dynamic, it almost feels like there is a desire on one side. I'm feeling the energy of wanting to explore, wanting to um, be free. But it does feel like a very young, inexperienced energy, but the desire to acquire the experience is here. And I feel like with this energy, there is something that's changing in their perspective. And of course, that happens, right? When we are able to get out and navigate life on our own, that experience is very different. It's very different than actually having someone to bounce off of or to back you right up. Being able to be out there on your own offers a completely different experience leading to another perspective. So on one hand, I feel that. I feel the excitement, the spontaneous energy of being out and free and able to like really experience life on your own terms. But at the same time, there's something changing with how you're seeing things, with how things are being processed and analyzed. You may be changing your mind about what you thought was true. It may not necessarily be true anymore, right? This almost feels like it could be the child's perspective. On the other side, looking at the other energy, which could absolutely be like the parental experience, I have the Six of Swords on the backside, which shows usually the Six of Swords talks about moving away from something that you feel is very, um, dramatic or just too much, but it's coming back. So there's a coming back around. And then I also have the Empress, the backside of the Empress. And so there's something that's changing too on the other side that actually is embracing. And I feel like this change feels like it's about being loving, being kind, and releasing the expectation about the return of that or having to meet certain requirements of what that is in order to give, that love, that support. The back of the Empress is not really looking for things to be a certain way. She's just ready to give. She doesn't really care what it looks like. She's open to give. And so there's a turning, there may be some changing of hearts or turning in the way that we're seeing things. I feel like from both perspectives here, which is very beautiful. And then going back to the energy that is in the energy of the hangman, I almost feel like this is something, this is some experience that has required a halt of some kind, required some kind of pause. And it almost feels like when we talk about the hangman, we're usually talking about um, things that bring things to a pause. And it's upside down. I didn't even notice that it was upside down. And so there could have been things that happened at some point that caused a pause or caused a stop or caused some type of stuck energy, but long enough to actually see things differently. Right? So many times we set out, and we just know that we have it all together and things are going to go smoothly. And, life teaches us some very valuable lessons. And I'm speaking on the perspective of like the child, right? And we may have in our mind how things going to go. And we may have in our mind and have it all planned out. Things may not necessarily it may not necessarily unfold as smoothly. And so there's something here, I do feel like that's happened that has caused some shift in perspective, some shift in even beliefs about the truth of what it is. And there's somebody that's witnessing this. There's somebody witnessing this. And I don't feel like they're alone, right? I feel like there is um, possibly even help. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are helping. They may just be watching. You know how sometimes you allow a baby as they start to uh, walk, and they're like wobbly a little bit. They can walk a little bit, but at any moment they could fall. And you're like, you're there, you're not holding them up, but you're just like waiting just to make sure you catch them if they fall. And you're like, it almost feels like it could be support in that way, just guiding and covering and just there just to make sure, that the experience is a learning experience that's not going to lead to some type of long term, damage. That's what I'm feeling here. And the Six of Swords is really, this is like energy of, and I'm speaking now on the side of the parent, like this is an energy of, yeah, listen, don't play with my kids, don't play with that which I love. It's that kind of energy. The Six of Swords is all about moving away from drama, but also taking what it is that you love, what you care about away with you. There's this very protective energy that I'm feeling with the Six of Swords that's returning and opening back up and ready to, receive. And so I do feel like there is kind of like a change of heart that I'm feeling on both sides. There's a change of heart that's happening. So, coming in the future, I have the King of Pentacles, the Nine of Pentacles, and the Temperance. First of all, let me point out Archangel Michael here. I do feel like in the future will be the recognition and the understanding of how this has been protected, this experience. There's been a level of protection there. As I was saying, like as you kind of like that parent kind of guarding as the toddler begins its sense of independence and moving on its own. And it's almost like the having someone there in that capacity. Sometimes that's even in our um I don't want to use the word, what word can I use, even in our naivety, being able to look back, right, and recognize how much protection, how much covering we had as we were not aware, right, of the potential for danger. And I do feel like Michael, Archangel Michael, is present here. We have the Nine of Pentacles and the Knight of Pentacles. So I feel like there is a bit of healing coming in here in the future. It's coming very slowly, but it actually is in fact happening. I feel like whatever experience is happening, I almost feel like it could be a little bit of it almost feels like a little bit of romance mingled in this experience, maybe a little, not a lot, which actually ends up being something else altogether. However, it is actually serving as an experience. It's serving as a something that's actually going to cause maturity or a level of wisdom, right? There's a level of wisdom or growth or maturity that's going to come out of this experience in the future, and healing, and the appreciation around the fact that there was this level of protection the whole time, I feel like here. And now, as I look at what is to be understood here, there's not a lot of, I feel like there's not a lot of, as I was saying, not to beat up. We can't beat up ourselves over things that are really out of our control. And so when we look at this energy, the Justice, the Tower, and the Eight of Pentacles, I feel like there's a part of this, as I was saying, that is truly sometimes, we can try to work really hard and set the best course. It almost feels like there's a lot of work that was put in and a lot of time and effort and even ensuring something. However, the outcome is left to the powers that be, the creator. It feels like there's something about working really hard, but at the end of the day, things happen, that are out of our control sometimes. And sometimes these things make no sense. Like sometimes they do. We know, that this has something to do with, maybe a decision or maybe something that happened in the past somewhere along the line. Sometimes it comes completely out of nowhere and it makes no sense and it's out of our control. So there's something about the past about releasing, even, a level of responsibility around this. With the Tower coming out, it almost feels like this is something that was, definitely out of anyone's hands, you know? As I said, we do everything that we can to plan and to ensure certain privileges and paths, for our children. But at the end of the day, there's certain things that are left up to them to decide. Yeah. There's something about this too that almost feels like there were little, signs somewhere in the past that was showing or pointing, to little indicators. I almost feel like that's coming out here with the Justice too. But there's something about the past that we can completely release because it was out, it was out of our control at certain points. You know, we work really hard to plan and to, embed success. But at the end of the day, we can lead a horse to the water, but we can't make them drink. It's going to be really up to them to choose their path, right? Sometimes we spend, lots and lots of money, only to find that they don't even want to go to college. Just like, no, I want to, join a missionary group and go travel around the world and live very humbly. And you're like, what? I just saved all this money for you to get a, at least a 4-year degree, at least, right? And they're like, well, I don't want to do that. But so there's sometimes things, we work really hard to ensure things that end up being very much out of our control. That's what I'm feeling here. Um, and so we're going to end this really quickly here. What else, Spirit, do we need to know? I do see we have the Page of Cups here and the Six of Cups, which really is talking about there is going to be a new start here coming where things will actually have an opportunity to begin again. A new beginning will come in here, will be offered. With the Six of Cups, this is being able to look back at good times. There may be, reunions that happen where they will come home or call or contact, and there'll be an opportunity to really just sit and look back together. Or it may give you an opportunity to look back and back at time, your investment, and the experiences that have turned into these beautiful, precious, right? Even more precious than you've ever realized they were memories. These are opportunities that you'll have here in the future to really think back and bask in your memories as you move forward. Yeah. There's something that's really changing, I feel like, here with the way that communication and affection and how we'll relate to each other is changing. It's changing here. I have the Knight of Cups, the back of the Knight of Cups. And in this picture, he has his back. So the Knight of Cups comes offering something. And sometimes can be a little, depending on the mood, the Knight of Cups can sometimes be like silver tongue. They can talk themselves into something without really meaning what they say. I feel like this is pointing to a time where when we say like I miss you and I love you, like that's going to come from the heart. That's about to come from a whole different level. Because as I'm looking at this Knight of Cups with his back turned, it's almost like, and then there's a fish that's jumping out of the cup, right? So it's almost like experiencing the loss of some type of control, right? The fish is jumping out of the cup. But with that comes a greater level of appreciation. And when we say something, it's not just going to be a sleight of tongue or just, you know, something to say. Like we are going to mean it. And it's going to come from a very deep place, stemming from this experience here. And when we get the opportunity, like it's going to be totally different, like something that it's the experience is going to be something so much more deeper and so much more richer. And through this experience, I feel like there's just a deepening of love. There's some deep possible family wounds that's being healed as well. And I feel like when it's all said and done, there's going to be a great appreciation for each other and for the experience as well. So I'm going to get some oracle cards as I end it out, and I have um, my Sacred Rebels oracle deck. Okay, to see like what the outcome is here. What is the outcome of this experience that is playing out for my viewer, for whoever is resonating with this? Now, if this does not resonate, don't try to make it fit, okay? But if it does, then you'll know. There won't be any doubt about that. One card for the outcome here. Thank you, Spirit. And I often wondered, like, when I look back at my relationship with my grandmother, why we always preferred to be with her over, my mother, the one who birthed me, because there was such a deeper, there was just something more vulnerable, something more authentic with the love that I felt from my grandmother. And I think part of that was because my mother was still kind of learning some of those very deep lessons that my grandmother had already mastered and perfected. And it just seems like you didn't really have to even say if anything was wrong. That connection was there. It was deep. It was felt. And it was beautiful. And I feel this is kind of like what is being created here. Um, Someone is being conditioned and seasoned, and they're being positioned to actually receive in that way. Yeah. I really do feel like there's a deepening that happens here. And so the one card that came out, and I'm going to take it, I almost kept shuffling, but I was like, no, I trust that this is the exact message that should be coming out right now. She knows, and it's a two. I almost feel like this is aligning with the high priestess. There's something very deep that's happening right now. And though it may be cloaked and hidden, within you lies this natural magnificence, this brilliance, and this true uniqueness. And this could be something that's difficult for you to accept. The harder it is for you to believe, the more growth lies in letting go of the need to hide whatever it is that you're going through from the world, whatever this process is that you're in the middle of right now, not to hide from it, but just to release it. Let it be, accept it, release any doubt or anything that doesn't feel authentic as you're going through this experience. Whatever you're feeling right now, know that you can trust it. This may, in fact, be something that's guiding you to trust yourself like never before as well. That may be a part of this experience that you're having. And when you come out of this, your ability to sense things will be greater. And one of the major things that you'll come out of this experience with a greater level of sensing is going to absolutely be love. Your ability to sense love and the ability to open your heart easier towards the ones that you love. And so there's something that's transpiring here that's giving you an opportunity to be curious about it. Whatever this is, it does feel like it had some level of challenge for you. Um, this might be something that you've tried over and over, and in many ways, it may have ended up being sabotaged or something that was lurking that didn't allow you to really get the victory. But this is leading you to that. This is leading you to really understand yourself and trust yourself and open up and be vulnerable, possibly in a way that you haven't allowed yourself to be. Along with that is your ability to open up and deal with difficult things as you trust yourself more and not hold yourself back from things that feel fearful or it feels like it's out of your control. Or it could be something where there is a question around your ability to support and even care for yourself in the most important ways, right? Especially when it comes to expression and relationships. This oracle card, the number two, really reminds me of the high priestess because it's talking about trusting yourself and believing that not only have you done the right thing, but you are doing the right thing, that you have enough know-how, enough wisdom, enough intuition to navigate this experience that's happening right now and to also be vulnerable about it, right? Some of our experiences many times are maybe not even for us, but it's something that we'll be able to share and spread the benefit of it to those that are connected to us, that's coming after us. So it's also understanding that this experience is actually bigger than any one person. There's a whole picture that's taking place within you and around you that's unfolding It's blossoming. And so this is all about trusting this process. And so if you would take a moment to just put your hand on your heart, especially if it's feeling heavy right now, and just say aloud, or you can think it clearly, I trust in the love of my heart. Take your hand and place it down on your stomach, and we're going to say aloud, or you can think it clearly, I trust in my instincts. Now lower it down to your belly and say aloud or think very clearly, I trust in the flow of life right now. I trust the process. And then say out loud or very clearly in your mind, I trust myself. I trust my higher self. I trust in life. When I don't know, my higher self knows. My source knows. And I am guided by that wise voice of my source, of my higher self in my heart. I trust myself and I allow myself to be guided in all things that are happening right now by the wise, instinctive knowing within me. And I am not afraid to be seen. So I unveil myself from my hiding places, from my fears, from my disappointments, from my hurts and my pains. And step by step, I allow myself with all of my unique giftings, all of my unique offerings, all of my unique ways, all of my unique experiences to be unfolded before the world. I am seen and I am received with love by myself, by others, and I am worthy. And I will acknowledge those connected to me as worthy. Okay. And then lastly, we're going to get some angel answers as well as we end it out here. So go ahead and get your question in your mind. If something's worrying you, you need to know, you want to know. Let's find out. I'm going to ask just a couple of questions here and see what the angels have to say. Thank you, angels, spirit guides. Thank you, Source, for answering our prayers and the answers to our questions being pointed right now. And I'm hearing, before I even pull out any cards, it's not as bad as you think it is. That's what I'm hearing. And so big happy changes and take action comes out. And so there's something that's happening right now. No matter what it feels like right now, no matter what it looks like, there is a change that's taking place. Take action. And so if there's something that you're being guided, one of the things that just came out was the inner trust. There's something that you are being guided to do right now. Trust that. Trust yourself, right? If you're being guided to reach out, if you're being guided to do something specific, follow that guiding, trust it, okay? It's up to you. There may be something that has been in your court this whole time, right? There may be something that has been waiting on you. Sometimes we think we're waiting on our help to come in when really our help has been waiting on us to move. There's certain things that may in fact be in our hands that we can do something about or make a change, okay? Whatever that is that you've been guided And the nudge is to do it, right? You've been asked to do it. And if you had a question that you asked, the answer is unlikely. Okay. Unlikely. And for the other question, what's the answer to the other question? I heard it's not as bad as you think it is. Look for a sign. So your question will be answered, but you'll need to look for the answer. It'll come in like a bolt of lightning. You won't miss it, okay? Like a bolt of lightning. That's what I have for you. Thank you so much for stopping by. And again, I am manifesting that this will come across your page if you were meant to see it or hear it. Maybe there's somebody that needs to hear it, right? I ask that you do share it if you are feeling led to do that. And so this was the message today. I know it's a little different, being guided to go, a little bit deeper, to tap into the needs, not just the wants, tap into the needs. Okay. And so thank you for stopping by. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, and, to be in encouragement in ways that is needed. And so, yeah, for whoever needed to hear this was for you, okay? And I am standing with you in this time. Just know that my thoughts, my prayers, my heart is with you in this time, okay? And so that is the reading. Thank you for stopping by. If you would be so kind to comment if you feel led to do so. It is an open forum. I just ask that we be respectful of one another. And I will see you next time. Okay. All right. Bye.